Dispatcher Nancy was looking forward to the end of the workday. She has plans for tonight. She's going to turn down the street to a popular food court, pick up a lot of prepared foods, and then stop at the supermarket for a cake. It's not much food, but it's enough for tonight, she thought. Everything was going according to plan until Nancy received a message on her messenger. Hey, beautiful. I've been thinking about you all day. Wrote the same handsome guy online. Nancy was glad that Austin didn't make her wait long for his new messages. They had met online 3 months ago. She left a sweet comment under his picture, showing off his athletic and lean torso, and he appreciated her attention. And a few days later, he sent her his first message. Austin turned out to be an accusative guy. He asked what books Nancy read, what movies she liked, when she went on weekends, and what her plans were for the next 5 years. Those questions stopped Nancy. After all, she hated reading books, preferred light comedies, and spent her weekends at her favorite food court or at home in front of the screen playing online games. She was a little embarrassed to tell him, but she was sure she will never meet this guy in person. So she decided not to pretend and told her life as it was. Austin didn't try to impose his opinion on her, just smiled sweetly. A few days ago, Austin wrote that he really wanted to meet her. This irritated Nancy because she was sure that she couldn't have anything in common with such a smart and handsome guy. So she wrote him right away that she was in no hurry to meet him in person. But from the correspondence, she could not refuse because she likes him very much. When she told her friend about her story with Austin, she was cautious and advised her to be careful with this guy. This guy is a real hunter of women's hearts, said her friends in confidence. He is a successful banker, smart and handsome, and he is constantly involving. You're a good girl, but you're socially inferior to him. He may not be interested in you, or he will pretend to be interested in you now in order to get an obedient and comfortable girl as a wife, and then he will leave as he wants, said her friend. Nancy believed her friend's opinion without reservation. She already knew what to say to Austin's new message offering to meet. I'm sorry. I don't think it's going to work out. I'm going with the long-distance texting, so you don't have to ask me to meet again. Nancy texted him that night. Then she closed her laptop, went to the living room mirror, looked at her thought self, got desperate again, and went to crying bed. And when she was tired of crying, Nancy fell into deep sleep. She dreamed of her deceased grandmother. This was the same woman who had fed Nancy her delicious pies since childhood and told her that good food was the most available happiness. As an adult, Nancy had often taken offense on this, but her love of delicious food had never been overcome. But this time, it was as if her grandmother had come to correct this little misunderstanding. Nancy, I can see how uncomfortable you are with your extra weight. I really want you to be happy. So I'm going to take all of your extra 43 pounds with me tonight. In the morning, you will wake up to the slimmest girl on the block, said the grandmother in her dream, and disappeared. When Nancy woke up in the morning, she remembered her vivid dream with a smile on her face. It will be cool if I actually wake up thin and beautiful. Then I will definitely go on a date with Austin. Then I will have a chance to make him fall in love with me. Then I'll be the happiest girl in the world. But life is not that happy, Nancy thought as she walked into the kitchen. And when her eyes fell on the mirror in the living room, she saw an unfamiliar girl in it. She stopped abruptly, opening her eyes wider, and looked again. There was no one else in the room but her, so it was definitely not a ghost, but her reflection. The girl in the mirror had a perfectly slender figure. Not believing her eyes, Nancy examined her body and was shocked by her new body. She now had a thin waist, slender legs, graceful arms, and her neck was graceful and long like a swan. And her face had changed, as if she had gone back in time 10 years. The night had not been a dream, but a miracle had actually happened to her. Nancy took out her cell phone and spent hours taking pictures of herself in front of the mirror. And when she was convinced that beauty was not with her forever, the first thing she did was text Austin. "I have decided to meet you. If you see beauty with a slim waist and slender legs at the Rainbow restaurant tonight, approach her boldly. It will be me," Nancy wrote. Austin was thrilled. Their meeting took place that same evening. He came to the meeting with a bouquet of flowers and cute stuffed animal. After a few more meetings, he romantically declared his love for her. Nancy was sure that Austin loved her new slim waist and slender legs, so his declaration of love meant nothing to her. But so as not to sound rude, she said, "I love you too, but it's a shame it's not going to work out." "Why do you think that? Do you doubt me?" Austin asked. Nancy didn't want to tell him the truth about her transformation, so she just changed the subject. Their romance developed quickly. Now they were spending weekends together. Nancy enjoyed outdoor activities. The next weekend, they planned to go on a picnic together in nature. Nancy was eager to get ready for the weekend. The night before, Austin had broken the bad news. "Hey, we won't be able to go on a picnic tomorrow. My friend Bruce suggested a suitcase, and I agreed. So our vacation together will be postponed," Austin said. Here we go. We didn't have to wait long. His love only lasted 2 months, Nancy thought, but she didn't say anything to Austin. Nancy was sure that Austin had found someone prettier than her and wanted to spend this weekend with her. If that was true, he would dump her very soon or continue to cheat on her. To find out the truth, Nancy decided to take some steps. Instead of enjoying her vacation, Nancy called her boyfriend and asked for her car. On her day off, she left the house early in the morning and drove to Austin's house. She hid in the bushes near the house and saw him drive his car out of the yard. Nancy followed him. Austin went into the store and the way to get some groceries and came out a short time later with the heavy bags in his hands. He then loaded the bags into the car and drove off. His next destination was the downtown Children's Play Center. In the parking lot of the Children's Center, Austin got out of the car and walked over to a woman with large glasses and a little girl next to her. They were sitting on a bench and seemed to know in advance that Austin was coming to see them. He sat next to them for a while, then took the woman and the girl by the hand, and they walked to the Children's Center. Nancy wanted to follow them, to go up to Austin and cause a scandal, but she didn't have the strength. She sobbed at the top of her lungs and told her friend everything. "That's it. I don't want to talk to him. I'm just going to tell him today that we are breaking up," she told her friend, and she supported her. As she was about to leave, Austin came out of the Children's Center, but the same woman and a girl. He put them in a car, drove them to a house on the outskirts of town, and to say goodbye, he took his wallet out of his pocket, took out some money and gave it to the woman, and he gave the girl bags of toys. Nancy saw all this. "He is married. He has a daughter, and yet he goes out with me and tells me stories. Can you believe me what a scumbag this handsome guy turned out to be?" Nancy told her friend over the phone. She said she knew the whole time. So she texted Austin and told him it was over. Then she blacklisted his phone number so he would never hear her voice again. 3 hard and miserable days passed for Nancy. When there was a knock on the door, she reluctantly opened it. On the threshold was Austin. "Nancy, honey, what's wrong? Why did we break up? What was it?" he asked. "You know everything. I saw your wife and daughter. Stop lying to everyone," Nancy said and started to slam the door. Austin laughed it out loud, didn't let Nancy close the door, hugged her on the doorstep and said, "Let's go for a walk in the park, and I will tell you what the girl was all about," he said. Nancy was a little crankier, and then she agreed. "Nancy, honey, I don't understand why you don't believe me. Or maybe you should ask me sometimes before you jump to conclusions," he said as they fed the dogs at the pond. But Nancy was still mad at him. She tore off large pieces of French bread and threw them into the pond. "Nancy, why are you so angry?" Austin asked. "Why do you think that about me?" asked her Nancy. "Because when you feed the dogs, you try to get bread on their heads," Austin said, laughing out loud. At that moment, a strange girl joined them. "Can I have some crumbs too? I want to feed the dogs," she asked. Nancy looked at the girl and was horrified. This was the same girl that Austin had spoiled all day last weekend. This time, Austin didn't even bother to hide the fact that he knew her. "Oh, hi Molly. How did you get here? How's Mommy?" he asked. "We are fine. I like your presents," said the girl. After chatting sweetly for a while, the girl walked away. Nancy realized that the conversation could not be put off any longer, but Austin beat her to it. This girl's name is Molly, and she's 8 years old. Her mother, Sarah, is raising 3 children by herself. Sarah herself is blind. They recently had a disaster when their house burned down. Since Sarah is a member of the church that my friend Bruce attends, they decided to help her financially. Bruce was sick that day and asked me to buy everything for the girl, take her to a children's center on behalf of the church, and give her mother the money that the other church members had collected. That's the whole story," Austin said. "Really? Then I'm sorry I acted like a fool," Nancy said, feeling ashamed of her behavior. She spent the rest of the evening wondering if she should believe Austin's words. That night, she dreamed about her grandmother again. She didn't look as good-natured as the first time. This time, she was angry. "I gave you the wonderful gift of a slim body, but I see it hasn't helped you self-confidence. Sweet Nancy, now you have to work on yourself, and I'm going to give you some time to do it. If you fail, I will have to give you back your extra 43 pounds and leave you alone," Grandma said. "Grandma, I really want to gain confidence too, but I don't know how to do it. It's my beloved Austin who suffers the most," he said. "I can see that, sweetie, but you'll get there. Just remember, if you ever doubt Austin's love for you again, you will wake up fat again the next morning," Grandma said and laughed. Nancy was frightened by her dream, but promised to trust her lover from now on. A few more days passed. This time, Austin suggested another scenario for the upcoming weekend. "This weekend, we are invited to my friend's party. It's time for you to meet her," he said. "Will there be a girl there?" Nancy asked cautiously. "Yes, of course there will be. I'm sure you will like them, and they will like you. So get ready." Nancy panicked. She immediately dialed her friend's number and told her that everything was out of her control. Her friend did her best to calm her down. On the other hand, this is a great opportunity for you to see your Austin in a different setting. Believe me, men can be studious in the company of the women they love and show a different side of themselves in the company of friends. "You're about to find out who your Austin really is," said a friend. As the party approached, Nancy became increasingly nervous. The friends gathered at Bruce's house. Nancy was greeted with smiles. Austin began to introduce her to his friends. "This is Matthew, this is Tom, this is John, and this is Bruce. I've told you a lot about them," Austin said. But Nancy let the boys' greeting pass her by. Her attention was caught by a beautiful and smooth girl in their company. Austin noticed immediately and introduced them. "This is Nicole. She is into whitewater rafting, runs her own blog, and is writing a travel book," Austin said. Nancy didn't like Nicole right away. She seemed to think that her Austin was the best candidate to be her boyfriend. Nancy wanted to say it all right now, splash champagne from a glass in Nicole's face, then break it over her head and proudly leave the company. As the clock struck midnight, Bruce announced that he had ordered a special birthday cake for his friends. The cake was brought into the living room, and Austin volunteered to cut it. Nancy watched intently to see what Austin would do next, and he put a piece of cake on each person's plate. Nicole, the pretty girl, decided to make a statement. "Austin, I don't eat sweets at night," she said. "You can tell. That's why I'm giving you a big piece. You have to eat it all," Austin said, and cut Nicole the biggest and most dainty piece of cake. But he put a regular piece in Nancy's plate. Nancy realized that if he gave her a small piece, it meant he thought she was fat, even though she isn't thin, at least Nicole right now. To put it bluntly, Austin doesn't like her. Nancy drew these conclusions. When everyone started to eat dessert, Nancy threw her fork down on the table with a clatter, looked at the people around her with an angry look, then abruptly stood up and hurried to the exit. "Nancy, where are you going?" Austin followed her. "Stop pretending. You've never loved me and you probably never will. We have to stop this game of love," she said on the doorstep, then slammed the door and left. Austin couldn't catch up with her. He called her cell phone several times, but she blocked him again. Nancy fell asleep in a sad mood. She didn't dream anything that night, but in the morning, when Nancy saw her reflection in the mirror, she panicked again. Her extra weight had returned. It seemed that grandmother hadn't lied in her dream this time. Nancy realized that it was really over now. In the back of her mind, she really wanted Austin to come back to her, but it didn't happen. And after a few more days, she noticed a watery boil appearing on her face and all over her body. Nancy went to a doctor. He prescribed treatment and recommended and she stay indoors for a few days. During this time, Nancy realized what a blessing it was to be healthy. She also realized that she was much prettier without the sores of her skin. On her last night, she promised herself that when she recovered, she will never blame herself for her appearance or think of herself as ugly. From the day on, the wounds of her face and body began to heal. Nancy was now truly happy with the way she looked in the mirror. And in the back of her mind, she was still waiting for Austin. This time, he made her wait for days. But finally, he knocked on her door. It was unexpected for Nancy. When she saw him at her door, she quickly turned off the light in the apartment. "Austin, I'm sorry, but I have a big, scary secret. I'm actually fat, and you will fall in love with me, thin waists and slender legs that my grandmother gave me for a while. And now that I don't have them, you can hardly love me anymore," she said. "Did it ever occur to you that you cannot love a person by their looks, but by their soul?" Austin asked, turning on the light. "Is that true?" Nancy asked, embarrassed to look him in the eye. "It is true. Try to believe it. Besides, we're invited to my friend Bruce's wedding next weekend. He's marrying Nicole," Austin said. "He is? You mean Nicole wants to seduce you?" Nancy asked. Austin laughed. "What makes you think that? Nicole and Bruce have been together for 3 years. They planned their wedding 6 months ago. They have a great relationship," Austin said. Nancy was a little embarrassed about her thoughts about Nicole. She decided to clean up the misunderstanding at their wedding. On their wedding day, they had a heart-to-heart talk. "Nicole, I wish you and Bruce a very happy marriage. I'm sure you will be happy because you're both wonderful people," she said. "Thank you, sweet Nancy. I have a wish too. I can see how much Austin loves you. Bruce and I will be happy if you get married too," she said. "And that probably won't happen," Nancy wanted to say, but at the last moment she remembered her grandmother's words and her promise. So she just kept quiet. And at the end of the wedding, Austin had a surprise for everyone. Nancy, I want the next wedding to be ours. I want you to marry me. He said in front of all his friends and family. His friends supported him and Nancy accepted his proposal. After the wedding, time passed quickly. One day, Nancy remembered the events of the past and decided to measure her weight. When she stepped on her home scale, it almost broke from the weight of her body. Austin, I think I've gained a little weight, she said. I hadn't noticed, honey, but I still love you, Austin said from the nursery, where the noise of their 3 children came from.